Okay, so I'm one of the SYP students, and for my senior year project, I wanted to do something related to cooking because I've always enjoyed to cook. And so I ended up doing a project on gourmet cuisine in the United States, which is why I have a cake here, but unfortunately there isn't enough for all of you to eat, so I'm just gonna have to look at it. So in coming up with the topic for my project, I had to develop a research question for my SYP, and so I came up with the question, how has the definition of gourmet changed in the United States over the last century? And after doing some primary and secondary research over the last couple months, I came up with a thesis and wrote a 15-page paper on the topic. Because I only have 10 minutes to present today, I'll mostly just be talking about the cooking aspects of my project and Gourmet magazine, which is the magazine I cook through, and not really about the whole arc of how I answered my question. So first off, I had to come up with a base definition for gourmet in order to see how the definition had changed. So I talked to a professor of cooking at the University of New Hampshire, and he gave me the following definition, which I think really sums up all aspects of gourmet cooking when it entered the United States in the early 1900s. And that way you can see how it changed, how it has changed and what it has become today. So what he told me is gourmet cooking is also referred to by another name, haute cuisine. Haute cuisine typically includes any foods that are elaborately prepared, balanced meals consisting of multiple courses, each unique for its contrasting tastes, textures, and use of a variety of cooking techniques. So haute cuisine in French means just high cooking. It's a way to, and as you can tell just from the name, it's a way to display wealth. It's for upper class people who really can do more with food than just eat a meal. They can really make it into something more than that, an activity, something like leisure, which is really more than anything food had really been for a very long time in human history. So for the actual cooking portion of my project, I cooked through the January 1991 issue of Gourmet magazine, which is the 50th anniversary issue. That's the picture there, and the cake I made is on the cover. I chose this issue because it has one recipe from each year from 1941 to 1991, so I could really see the change in gourmet cooking through the recipes that I made. For instance, the first recipe I made, which is on the left, is a cheese and tomato souffle, which you can tell is a really traditional French meal, just like the definition of gourmet I gave to you earlier in the last slide. So it was really cool to be able to see how the definition changed through the actual cooking of these recipes. So we all like food pictures. So here's more food. These are more things that I cooked from the magazine. I ended up making, I think, 26 recipes. Originally, I wanted to cook all 50, but I really didn't have the time, and a lot of the recipes were really weird, and I didn't have the ingredients for them. So the recipe on the left is a blackberry jam cake with caramel icing, and it's from 1971. And on the right is pasta with tomatoes and beans from 1987. So there were a lot of variety of different things that I made, and it was really cool to have the project to really teach me how to cook things that I probably never would have cooked otherwise. So Gourmet magazine itself is a really important magazine in the history of gourmet cooking because it's the first magazine dedicated solely to cooking that existed in this country. So it really brought food to all sorts of people and really made cooking an activity that everyone could participate in rather than just to cook meals for your family. And this idea is epitomized in the fact that it's called the Magazine of Good Living. So it's really trying to bring food to people, to create it as a leisure thing rather than just something that people have to do. Gourmet was a really popular magazine. In 1941, its first issue, which is on the left, had 30,000 subscribers, and then in its final year on the right, 2009, it had over 900,000 subscribers and was the most subscribed to magazine in this country. So it really brought food to lots of people and had a big place in the history of gourmet cooking in this country. So I spent a lot of time in my project looking at this magazine, the way that it portrayed food, the articles it included, and the recipes in the magazine, in order to see how those things had changed, so I could see how the definition of gourmet had changed. So, in its first issue, Gourmet magazine from December 1941, I spent a lot of time looking at that issue, and this photo, or cartoon I guess, is from an article in that issue entitled The Gourmet. So there was a whole article in the first issue defining gourmet and what it meant to the magazine, which was really helpful for my project in order to see like how Gourmet, the magazine, really changed and how it defined gourmet. So this picture, which is a little hard to see I guess, but in it you can kind of see that on the table for the one man there's like dozens and dozens of plates and glasses, and there's like a couch and a table and a pond and like 2 waiters. And this really shows how gourmet food was really for rich people who wanted to display their wealth in an ostentatious way. Like, it's not like he really needs all the food or like a fish pond next to his meal, but it's kind of just like a way to show how gourmet was really an elaborate thing, not really necessarily something practical cooking necessarily. So Gourmet magazine itself, between 1941 and 2009, when it ceased to exist, changed cooking in a lot of really important ways. So originally, as you saw on the last slide, Gourmet magazine really defined gourmet in the same way that the professor I had talked to defined it in its French origins. The picture on the left is a chicken dish I made from 1956, which uses like a lot of French techniques for the sauce, and it's like a very traditional French sauce. So the Gourmet has some really heavily French-influenced meals in its early years. However, Gourmet also did things that were new and changed the definition of gourmet. For instance, on the left is a copy of an anthology of the most read travel articles in Gourmet, and Gourmet really brought travel to the forefront of cooking and really tied the things that were cooked to the places that they were from, which was like a new phenomenon and really brought travel and cooking together. In addition, I don't have a picture of this, but Gourmet really focused on fresh local ingredients, which is something we all today really think of when we think of gourmet food. They really focused on that and had a lot of recipes with American ingredients and French techniques, which was something new and changed how people saw gourmet. I'm going to leave you with this quote, which is from the editor-in-chief of Gourmet.com. I interviewed her, and she is like the head of the current form of Gourmet, the magazine, because it stopped being printed, so now it's just a website. And she gave me this definition of gourmet today, which I think really sums up how the definition has changed and how people see gourmet food today. So she said, the definition of gourmet has truly expanded in the last decade. It used to mean fussy, expensive food, usually French, but now a food truck composed of the freshest now a food truck can serve gourmet food. It means food composed of the freshest ingredients prepared with an expert touch. So I think that really shows like how we see gourmet food today, and you can kind of see like the arc of how Gourmet, the magazine, changed that. And then I made this cake. It's from the 1991 issue of Gourmet, and like even though the definition of gourmet has changed a lot today, this recipe still has a lot of relics of like French cooking. I made some it has like meringues in it and stuff. So it's, even though gourmet, the definition has changed, there's still a lot of things about it that are French. So thank you.